Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you're all well today. I'm delighted to welcome Pat O'Farrell today to our Irish Food Trade Connect conversations. Pat is the commercial manager of Follain and the director of Love Irish Food. Thanks very much, Pat, for joining us here today. We're delighted to have you.
Delighted to be here, Margaret. Thanks for having us on, and good to see you again.
Great, great. We always have great chats. I'll be accused someday now of having a load of Cork people on here, so I'd have to mix it up a little bit one time.
But I'll
Cara was
have
on the
to
last time with me.
I'll have to let you into a small little secret, Margaret. I'm originally from Limerick.
Oh, geez, so that's a cardinal
So,
sin for me to say that, isn't it? No, a cardinal sin.
well, it's been a tough few weeks here now in these parts since the hurling semi-final, but I've been managed to collect my thoughts anyway and support, cheer on the Cork team a small little bit anyway.
Yeah, you're allowed. You're
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
long
yeah.
enough in the county to. It's about me here. Like, sure, a lot of people even ask me, like, did you come up for, like, did you come up for the day, like, because my accent after.
Yeah.
Someone said it to me this morning, actually. How long are you in Dublin? I said 22 years, and they goes, she couldn't be your accent. I was like, I am who I am. So, Pat, tell us a little bit about your own background and how you got started in food.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose just to go back to West Limerick for a second,
Mm.
I suppose I grew up in a place called Castleman, which unfortunately no longer processes chicken, but back in the day was one of the chicken processors in the country. And I suppose I would have started doing summer work out of school inside in the factory. Won't get into the details of that because it's lunchtime and people are probably kind of still either looking forward to or have just had their lunch. So
Having a
we
little
won't
cup of tea and a
yeah,
sandwich, yeah.
we won't go into the details, but I suppose I would have come to Cork to college, would have studied business and marketing, would have gotten into straight out after college, would have gotten into retail in technology and would become a store manager and then a regional store manager for mobile phone business. So
Right.
completely unrelated to food. So I got all the chickens out of my system by that, but I kind of fell back into it with a seafood processor here in Cork who were supplying counter fish and fish portions in pre-pack and value-added fish in the likes of chowders and breaded fish. And then I spent a bit of time with chill distribution with PRM in the north, doing a little bit of work on the sales and distribution side for mostly dairy and chilled convenience products. Um, and I suppose that gave me a nice little exposure to the kind of the world of brands and big brands because they were obviously dealing with the likes of say Muller and Onken and some of the other big yogurt players and the likes. And I suppose coming from a kind of a seafood background, having the brand exposure was a nice kind of tie-in. So having the
Mm.
processing and production, and then kind of the marketing, sales, and branding aspects of it as well. And then I suppose kind of opportunity popped up with Follain. I'm there 8 years as commercial manager now, and I suppose it's been a bit of a roller coaster. And we've kind of had a fun few years, especially most recently from things like our rebrand and things like that. But um, yeah, I suppose the food industry has always kind of been in me in some way. So
Yeah,
it's really, I think it's once it gets into you, it's very hard to kind of shake it. And anyone who's in it is kind of that ilk, you know.
exactly. I think, and I've often thought of, oh, sure, look, will I come out of it? Will I stay in it? But I think it's in your blood once you get into it at all,
Absolutely.
and spend any bit of time. Like it's very fast moving and very interesting
Totally.
industry, and you get a love for it. That's exactly what
Yeah.
happens as you start to get a love for it. Tell us a little bit about Falon and its history and its products.
Yeah, so Follain, we're a family business. So family founded, owned and operated still. And in terms of our business, we're 40 years in business actually this year. So I
Wow.
suppose, yeah, people might realize we've been around that long. But like we were founded by Maureen and Paderol and Ord. So the factory is currently based in Ballyvourney, but the company was founded at the kitchen table at the family home in Coolay. And in terms of our first product, it was grapefruit marmalade. So as you can imagine, in mid 1980s, that was something a little bit different, which was kind of a nice little piece of innovation and not kind of putting everyone's mind back. But in the 80s, I think there was an awful lot of talk about kind of eating fruit for breakfast, particularly grapefruit. I think it had high association with health and there was benefits about fat reduction. All of it really was kind of not very well proven, but it was kind of just a theme at the time. So when grapefruit marmalade came out, it was quite novel and it got a lot of traction and got a lot of interest.
Hmm.
Um, so obviously the portfolio of product that Follain has grew over the years, as did the size of the operation. So the kitchen table became a a small unit, became a bigger industrial unit, became where we are now, which was a purpose-built facility in Ballyvorney, and that was commissioned in 2016. So it's a very modern site. But I suppose in terms of the scale that we've been to where we are now, I suppose that the trajectory was there, and I suppose where we are at the moment is that we're kitted for the present and for the future. So our range of kind of preserves and fruit spreads at the moment, and relishes and chutneys, kind of, I think we've about 50 or so plus in range at
Right.
the moment. And I mean, our most recent ones, one that's hitting shelf this weekend actually is a lemon and lime marmalade in our nothing but fruit range. So we're constantly innovating and bringing new products. Other ones we've had recently, like a kimchi relish, so that's a kind of a play with a modern um, kind of trending flavor of kimchi, but then also a classic relish base, so kimchi relish and salted caramels and things like that. So, over the years, we've always had innovation and growth and development, and there's a little idea of what we're doing at the moment. But I suppose the catalyst for growth for us in the late 90s would have been our nothing but fruit or our no added sugar products, which is pretty much our preserves that are made and made without the use of refined sugar and sweetened with grape juice. So in real terms, the product looks, tastes like a traditional recipe preserve, but it is a little bit better for you, healthier jam.
Hmm.
Not healthy per se, because it's still jam at the end of the day, or fruit preserve, but it's healthier, you know. And that was a real catalyst for growth for our brand in terms of innovation and product. But then when we rebranded and kind of got a new look and feel to the brand, that kind of took us into another level again. So yeah, 40 years growing to where we are today.
Well, like it's some story from the kitchen table and to where the scale is of
Mm.
the business now. And I suppose, Follain as a brand would be, I know personally, would have been known for me um as a jam company.
Yeah,
I was schooled in Ballyvorney, and I don't, my original home place is not far from there. And, I mean, when we were growing up, Follain was a jam company. But as we've been talking, there's an awful lot more products than just jam happening in that factory.
yeah,
So um, the level of innovation is huge within Follain,
yeah.
huge. And you do a lot of different work for other providers as well, like and service different customers on their own brand.
Absolutely, yes. So we,
Yeah.
we do produce a large variety of products in, say, private label or contract manufacturing, which is production for other brands as
Mm,
well, and also food service and business to business. So again, like
yeah.
our food service would be like the tubs and buckets and pails, but also we supply other food businesses. So jam for jam donuts, or some sauces
Yeah.
for or relishes and chutneys for composite within another product, say sandwich or something like that. So again, there's a great portfolio of products, and I suppose we have an ethos within the business that I suppose the Follain is the word, the Irish word for wholesome. So
Mm,
everything we do is natural, wholesome ingredients. The products we create are pretty much of the same that you would have at the pantry at home. So if you went and kind of tried to create a relish or a chutney or a preserve, they're all kind of domestically sourced ingredients. There wouldn't be anything kind of artificial or highly processed going into our products. So we've always held true to that ethos of natural and wholesomeness. So when it comes to innovation, it really is like just kind of, standing at the kitchen at home and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We might come in the morning and have an idea and say, have we thought about this product, or have we thought about that product? Four or five of us might stand around and chat about it, and by that afternoon we might have a product ready for tasting, and then we kind of pick holes in it and go from there. So that just sometimes they mightn't get it past that afternoon. Those products might be right. We'll put that away and come back to it maybe some other time. Or sometimes they might be absolute runners. We might say, yeah, that's a really really good product. Let's go with it. So
and
that
that's a
culture of
really,
innovation is in the business.
it's,
Right.
yeah, the cultural innovation. And I suppose innovation is where you get your standout, your point of difference. But how do you bring that innovation into a market that's saturated in product? How do you get the best from that innovation? What do you do there?
Yeah, I think really I suppose the innovation, I suppose, there's a couple of different ways we can look at it. One is kind of, I suppose, if we've got something that's like a gap in the market,
Hmm.
that we're looking to close that gap. That would kind of be a very different approach to say something that is like, say, completely innovative and new and unmatched. So say we'd probably have different kind of ways to go at it, but I suppose the fundamentals would be the same. So I suppose, thinking about any innovation, you're kind of, I suppose, conducting your market research. So you're looking at the product in terms of its own attributes and values, and evaluating that against what's in the market at the moment or what isn't in the market at the moment. So I suppose you can start off by doing things like consumer research through surveys, just focus groups. You could look at things like retailer analysis, just getting into a shop, walking the floor, looking at the shelves, seeing what the competitors are doing, benchmarking against the competitive set. So looking at the other products that are in situ at the moment and saying what attributes do they have versus what do we have. Or if it's, again, as I say, if it's a new and novel product, it's how is this going to be different, and who is this going to potentially displace or be a differentiation to on the shelf. And then kind of looking at kind of creating a business plan around that, and really kind of saying, right, we need to kind of, is this commercially viable, develop a pipeline of opportunity for this product, kind of a project really per se. Looking at things like, say, the pricing, your end-to-end margins, and really kind of trying to get a plan in place to facilitate a launch plan to get the product into the market. So before you even get all of that, if you've got your product, we then kind of operate what's called a product development stage gate process. So what that would entail is we'd look at things like start with the basics and look at the feasibility of a product. So like, is it feasible to make this in a production environment? So the example I was giving there of something that we put together in the NPD room and that tastes lovely and has certain attributes and values, is that going to be the same when it goes out to a production environment? And sometimes the answer is no, it won't. So we have to figure out, do we need to amend what we do operationally to make that happen? Do we need capital investment to make it happen? Do we need to go back and revise the innovation that we have to make it fit what's going on in production? And if we do that, what have we lost? Have we lost a bit of uniqueness of the gaps that we've identified that it will need to succeed in the market? So they're one little things in terms of production and operation. Then you've got things like commercial feasibility. So like, is there a key component or a primary ingredient in this product that's, subject to future supply or price volatility? And if so, is this going to be the end of the product in 6 months? And I know some of the chocolate people at the moment, for example, are pulling their hair out with the way chocolate pricing is going at the moment. So if anyone was doing some NPD and innovation in that sphere, I'd say they probably kind of are putting the pause button on it.
Well, I think, yeah, and the thing is, when something is in short supply, then are the prices going up? You've other customers that are coming at you trying to see, but I suppose, trying to reduce the amount that you use in a product and doing maybe a bit of EPD in it is the only way to get out of that, because you're dead right. Like, there's a couple of points that you made there, and one that I really find is a really important point is, will the product development work in the operations, or does the operations have to be changed? And you've different skill sets within a business where MPD have a job to do, operations have a job to do, and sourcing have a job to do, and all those have to align, because otherwise the product will not succeed. And that's a really crucial point. And as well, like, commodities go, like, I mean, even I've seen it in the last while. They were coming down a little bit. They're gone up again now. An awful lot of things are going back up. So I don't know where that inflation is going, but it was supposed to be coming down, but it seems to be going back up again. So it is, and it, like, I suppose it's one thing, like, it's the start of a journey and trying to map out how that product is going to go to its end of life. So, like, once you launch it, like, how do you plan then to bring it through its whole life cycle? What do you do to grow it, to get the customer interested in it? And I know you were talking about a rebranding there, and that's probably part of it, but what else do you think is important in the different stages? And and how to know when to pull it as well, because sometimes, unfortunately, that happens as well.
Absolutely, it does. And I mean, in terms of I suppose the NPD and the product development work that goes on in the background, and I mean all of the hard work that's involved in packaging design and business planning and all that, like, that's all heavy going. And I mean, once you get it on a shelf or you get the opportunity to sit in front of a buyer and present it, that's when the real work starts. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and sometimes you actually have to sit in front and pitch it before the product's even made. And I mean, I've done that as well, is that you're kind of almost sitting down with a concept or an idea, or sometimes you're even just using a sheet of paper or digital assets to say, here's what this product will look like, here's what it might taste like, here's what, the plan is, and then go through it. But I mean, in terms of kind of the life cycle of that product, I suppose I tend to approach anything that we launch with kind of there's four distinct kind of fundamental linear time periods for a product. So there's and it sits within each area. So the first phase is kind of launch. The next one would be growth. The next one again would be protect, and then the last one would be the retain or renew. So just kind of to break those down a little bit,
Yeah.
launch is pretty much executing your launch plan. So all of the hard work that you've done in terms of the pricing strategy, the marketing plan, the launch, the entire product launch portfolio that you need to get a product onto a retailer shelf is everything that happens in the first 6 to 8 to 10 months. So there's a project, I suppose, per se for that particular phase of the life cycle of the product. The next one, which would be the grow, which is what you always plan and expect for, which is that upward spiral in terms of volume demand and consumer engagement, and that people will actually shop the product, buy it, and repeat purchase. So you're really reinforcing in the growth phase those kind of key drivers that people will want to come back and repeat purchase after the product has gone in on launch. You're really kind of driving growth. Protect for that phase, really what you're at that stage, you're really plateauing. You're probably hitting the heights of where the market optimization, I suppose, in a sense, if that's at all achievable within the product that you've launched. And if you've hit that height in terms of kind of maximizing the opportunity, you have to protect it, because there'll always be challenges coming from competitors and from the retailers as well, saying, look, we need this to perform even higher or more, and competitors will be challenging with perhaps doing a Me Too, coming against you, or even launching a campaign against via, say, an extra promotion or something like that. So in that protect phase, you're probably in that very dangerous zone whereby you either have to consolidate and maintain growth, or potentially then move into the latter phase, which is kind of retain and renew. And with that, then you're probably saying, do we need to reformulate? Do we need to reposition? Do we need to kind of look at something within the product that's going to kind of take us to the next step to hold our ground, or do we kind of go again with something else to replace this? So retain or renew being stay and maintain, or refresh and go again. Because I suppose the market is constantly moving, it's fluid, as is consumer demand, as is trends. So I mean, you can't copy and paste a product and hope it to work the same you did the last. You kind of really
Yeah.
have to be willing to evolve your strategy and rethink what you do on each individual product. And within a range of products that you might have, say, in shelf, you have to consider that for each one. So, a strawberry mightn't have the same criteria of life cycle that a strawberry jam bean than an orange marmalade, because people might perceive it different ways. So again, it's really kind of just being agile and being willing to kind of address and renew those fundamental kind of periods of the lifespan of the cycle to say, I can manage this to success.
Yeah, and I suppose it's keeping the hand on the pulse there, the eye on the pulse, because that you're right, it's so fluid, and
Yeah.
consumers are very they're changing ever so, and then you have different demographics, I mean, and all of that. So keeping the finger on the pulse is what I should say. On that, I'd say it's crucial. And have you ever experienced, especially in a family business, where they're very fond of a certain product? They love that product, but it no longer works, and you're kind of going, but there's a love for it because there's obviously a sentimentality behind it. And I often find that working with family businesses, that they're very sentimental about it, but it may no longer work. How do you get around that, like from a commercial perspective? And you're saying, it's a hard one.
Well, I think even to bring it back to a general one, I mean that everybody who works in the Irish food industry is highly passionate about their product,
Yeah.
and like we're really highly engaged about what we do and how we do it. and the product itself. And I've been to a couple of different countries and obviously done to different trade shows. You meet different people in different countries in the same industry, and I have to say, like, that the passion that Irish producers have for what we do is second to none.
It is.
It's amazing, and it's brilliant. And I mean, if we could bottle it and sell it, it'll be,
I know.
it's amazing.
I
So
know.
sometimes though, that can be an issue, as you've alluded to, in that,
Yeah.
that passion can blinker us, and we
Mm,
become very, very tunnel visioned on the product, and not less so about perhaps the customer, and less
yeah.
so perhaps about the consumer. And it becomes very much about what we perceive the product to be, and how we want it to be, and what we want it to be. So you're 100% right. And I think the only way, there's an old saying, Margaret, and it's, I think it's as good as it was when it was coined as it is today, is retail is detail, you know. And in terms of having the detailed information, if a product isn't going to perform to its maximum capability, or potential, um, retailers aren't going to hang on to it. It's not going to live in the retail world, and all the sentiment in the world and all the passion in the world won't keep it there. So it's really going to be about the rationale, the information, the detail around why that product needs to exist in front of a consumer. So if it doesn't belong on a supermarket shelf, it might belong on an online store instead. Um,
Yeah.
and I'll give you a small little example of one product. Is like, things fall in and out of trend and out of favor, and things are cyclical. Like, in the 2000s, 2010s, you couldn't give a jar of lemon curd away. Just wasn't in vogue. It wasn't fashionable. Wasn't a thing. It was perceived as kind of a granny's kitchen cupboard style product.
Mm,
Um, After pandemic, like, everyone was at home baking. There was TikToks and Instagrams flying around the place with people using lemon curd and sponges and meringues. Now it's one of our best. We relisted it, and it just kind of went that way because it was on trend, but it was a legacy product. So
that's unreal, man.
so again, it's coming back, I suppose, to kind of looking at that life cycle again. I mean, if it's not hot today, it might be hot tomorrow. you know,
Yeah, and it's something actually that I suppose we don't think about enough, but you're right. Different things like, I mean, the amount of banana bread, and I don't bake now. I'll be very honest, I don't bake. But geez, during the pandemic, the amount of banana bread that I
you know,
made. I mean, like, sure, like there was bananas ripening left, right, and center. But that's
absolutely.
not happening here today. So
No.
it's very, very true. What's hot today might not be tomorrow, but maybe. So I suppose having that in the back pocket, and never say never, really. Do you know?
Absolutely, but it's really all about managing the opportunity to the best, of all our abilities, really, in terms of what's feasible at any one given time. And I mean, if we are kind of very focused on, like, say, one or two products that are kind of legacy and valuable, in terms of who we are. I mean, because they're not in every store all the time, there's a reason, you know.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's really what the crux of it is that I suppose you have to manage that, life cycle of the product, to make sure that it's, if it comes back in vogue, that we can switch it on quickly and be ready for it again.
Yeah, and have it, but I suppose if there's not a rate of sale at a certain point of time, the sentimentality has to be put aside, because the retail, there's no sentimentality inside in retail. If it's taking up a space and it's not selling, then it's off, and that's as simple as
Correct.
that, and that's what happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so we're going to move on to a little different topic. You're a director in Love Irish Food.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what your role is there, and what does Love Irish Food do, if
Yeah.
you can tell me?
Yeah. Sure. So, Love Irish Food is it's a membership group, and I suppose we're comprised of a series of brands whose products are all produced in Ireland. And I suppose our mission and our goal really is to promote and showcase, and celebrate Irish food and drink brands to the Irish shopper. And I suppose help Irish shoppers make, informed decisions about buying Irish brands, and being aware that when they do pick up, a product that is produced by a Love Irish Food member, that they're contributing to a local economy, they're contributing to a local community, that they technically are buying Irish. So they're really keeping it local and keeping it real. Um, so I mean, like, we've some amazing brands in our membership. I mean, Avonmore, Flavins, Tato, Ballygowan, ourselves, Ballymaloo. There's a huge A huge portfolio. Check out our website, Love Irish
Mm-hmm.
Food, just to see in our socials, just to kind of see the membership that we have. But I suppose as an entity, I suppose at board level, we tend to kind of try and drive initiatives to support that kind of mission that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So, like some of the initiatives now that we've had this year, for example, is we've a retail partnership with Tesco. So we've had kind of a store takeover with stands going in across the estate in Tesco. So all of our members would have been featured on those stands. There was one done earlier this year. There's another repeat happening later this year of that initiative. We'd support and kind of group advertising with a lot of out of home. So you might have seen some bus shelters with
Yes, I've
some,
seen that. Yeah,
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 yeah.
and or if you've been stuck behind the back of a bus with some Love Irish Food brands on them as well. So bus sides and bus shelters. And also, I suppose we have done a kind of a brand development award every year that we kind of announce. So this year we did it's a media package award worth about 160,000 euro. So it's a very significant media pack
Right.
to the winner. And so like Plant It won it this year. So that
Oh,
was another,
fantastic brand.
yeah. So it
Yeah,
was great.
yeah,
Yeah, and again a new and innovative
yeah.
business. So they're just getting going. I think they're 3 years in business or so,
Mm.
and really getting going in the market. And again, doing great things. But again, that media pack was out of home, bit of trade media, a lot of digital advertising. So again, that was very valuable to them as a business and a brand. And also then we commission and consolidate a lot of industry reports. And then really kind of offer a lot of supports within our own group or our membership base. So again, I suppose we're really like kind of a support group for each other in that sense. So I mean, like if
Okay.
there's an issue or a challenge that we can kind of go to our membership and kind of help each other out. So it might be a packaging, it might be logistics, it might be consumer, it might be grouping together to do a in-store tastings, whatever it is, from high level to medium to low, we tend to engage well with each other and really kind of just help each other out at that. And then, for example, last year, last couple of years, we were doing things like the Love Irish Food Bursary, where we kind of identified a kind of an up and coming brand. And the winner that year, last year was BSL. So again, the guys kind of recovering the spent brewers grains and making some fantastic open air products with them as well. So yeah, that's kind of Love Irish in a bit of a snapshot in terms of
Brilliant,
what we
brilliant.
do and how
And
we do it.
how is Love Irish Food funded, or like, I mean, because they're quite substantial prizes that are given back to the industry.
Yeah.
That's huge. So how does all that work?
Yeah, so I suppose fundamentally we're not for profit, so that's the first thing.
Right.
So
Okay.
we're membership
Brilliant.
based. So there's a membership subscription
Yeah.
per brand, but everything basically goes into the I suppose the initiatives there that I mentioned. But also I suppose we would have a lot of integration with the relevant suppliers that are in those areas, and a lot of partnerships built up over the
Yeah.
years. So I suppose really it kind of sings true to that entire ethos of partnership and membership, really.
Yeah.
So I suppose we make every cent work is the is the only way
Yeah.
to go at it.
No, but you're right, because it is all about like partnership, and especially in this industry, it can be a very lonely road, and it's like sometimes margins are most times margins are extremely tough.
Yeah,
And I suppose being able to hold out the hand and say to someone else, like especially from logistics, we mentioned like logistics there, or distribution or anything like that, because that can be all very challenging for someone who's starting out, like say Planted started out 3 years ago.
mm,
And I believe from even buying their product, they probably have the nicest tasting vegan product in the market.
yeah,
So, and that's from a consumer point of view myself. So even spotting, like, I'm delighted to hear that. That's absolutely like fantastic story, you
yeah,
know. And you do the Meet the Maker as well. I was reading on the Meet the Maker. I find that very interesting, because these stories are very interesting, how
yeah.
people start off and that. I was even reading in the Farmer's Journal yesterday and I was even nearly talking to my own about it. An 11-year-old boy is selling eggs to his uncles. And there's a piece of the Farmer's Journal about it. I was like, geez, what'll he be like when he'll be 25?
There you
The
go.
stories you read in this industry are brilliant. So
Yeah.
tell me a bit about the Meet the Maker.
Yeah, so again, that's a profile series, as you rightly say, that we
Mm,
run with in conjunction with Checkout Magazine. So again, I suppose we feature it on our website, and we obviously put a lot of activity around it on social media. But it's also a checkout publication, so it's going to
right.
trade as well. So it's
Brilliant.
quite
Yeah.
valuable in that sense that it's getting in front of trade buyers, and it's in the right hands.
The right
In that
hands. Yeah.
sense. So
Yeah.
yeah. So in terms of the Meet the Maker series, yeah, I mean, it basically allows a producer to tell their story. It's a platform to basically kind of where who's behind the business, who's behind the products, what's the brand all about. And I mean, there's been some amazing stories in that series, as you say, like just reading some of the, because you wouldn't know, and that's the thing, you
You
would
wouldn't know.
like, I mean, even at the top end when I was saying to you, like Follain is 40 years, people don't kind of know
No.
that little nugget of detail. So we've had some great ones like Killoan and McCormick Farms and Foods of Athenry, all featured, and I mean some great stories there. And even the guys that I just mentioned, the BSR guys, we feature them as well in one of the Meet the Makers too. And just that story, just the product is one thing, but I think their story is almost better.
Oh,
Uh,
their story, like, I mean, during the pandemic, started off like, and that's not that long ago,
yeah,
with a fantastic circular product.
yeah,
Like the thought process, and actually I've spoke to other people since, and they're nearly piggybacking on an idea
yeah.
that that of that idea. So it's unreal. They've been first to market with something like that, which is fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah. And in fairness,
I think we lost Pat there, Margaret, did we?
I think yeah, I didn't know whether it was me or Pat. Have we
Yeah, no, I think we lost him. It's frozen. So I'd say he'll probably try and get back in.
unlogged back in?
Let's see. Yeah, he seems to be gone off. I'd say he'll back in.
Yeah.
Could be the coverage down there.
Could be the coverage. Yeah. We were having a
Yeah,
great
broadband.
chat
Might be a bit
there.
windy down there.
Yeah. We were having a great chat about spent grains.
Hmm.
Hopefully he'll be able to
Well, he
join
could
us
be checking
again.
the poll. I say he could be checking the poll
Hopefully,
on
yeah.
LinkedIn to see
Yeah, so to
how
tell us a bit about the poll there, Rachel. You created a poll on
trying to
LinkedIn,
find, yeah, just trying to find out the favorite flavor of the nation. So up until about 10 minutes ago, it was rhubarb,
right?
Irish rhubarb flavor. But now it's 50, well, it's 40-40 with jam, strawberry jam. So
Strawberry jam.
it's
Yeah.
the nation, because I know Pat will say strawberry jam all day long. It's the favorite. But
Yeah, it's isn't it
yes,
amazing though? You
strawberry
would
and
never
rhubarb.
and you'd never think that something would take over the strawberry jam. But but
Is it the season maybe? Maybe the rhubarb might be, I don't know, picnics or something.
it
I'm not
could be,
sure.
yeah, because like rhubarb was lovely with a bit of custard. I love rhubarb with custard, but I'm not really sure about it on jam. I just always pick up a pot of strawberry jam. That's what I always do.
Yeah. No, I'd
Yeah.
be rhubarb myself. I'd pick up rhubarb. You get all sorts of different innovations with rhubarb. Like I've seen the black pepper and rhubarb and prosecco and rhubarb, but it wouldn't be all year round buy. It would just be probably the summer, I'd
It
say.
is a very seasonal product. Like I think it's a very seasonal product, I suppose, and it kind of has a window, and maybe that's why. But
Yeah,
I'm not really sure if people store it actually to produce it. Pat would probably be able to tell us. But
yeah, that's a good question.
yeah,
Strawberry
yeah,
would be an all year round. That's comfort food in the winter as well, isn't it? On a bit of
it
toast.
is. Yeah. So because I was just going to chat to Pat there now about
Yeah,
and I think he's back in there, is he? Yes, I think
he's back
so.
there now. Pass to the windy down there. Did we lose you? He's laughing. I think his audio is trying to connect.
Oh, it's trying to connect audio. Yeah, yeah.
I'd say it must be the coverage.
But we were just going to have a chat now about Pat and his great contribution to us in the Irish Food Trade Connect forum last year.
Yes.
Pat joined us on the panel.
I don't know if you can hear me again.
I can hear you. Oh, you're back on camera, Pat.
I have
Brilliant.
no idea. The whole thing just crashed. I'm sorry.
No bother. I
Oh,
thought
you're
it was me.
grand.
I thought it was me there for a minute, because sometimes it clicks here for a minute, and next thing I might miss a piece of the conversation.
No.
But the world we live in, Pat, the world we live in, huh? Isn't it?
I've been kicked out of rooms before, but I think this was a virtual kick out. Sorry.
You were all right. You were doing all right. Anyway, you were doing well. We were just chatting there about the great help you've been to us since we started the Food Trade Connect forum that we had in March, and you were a panelist on one of our conversations. And I suppose you yourself, you seem to be really well known in the industry. Anything time we mention you on socials, you are really get a lot of attraction. So you seem to be well known, well admired, which is a fantastic thing to be in this industry. But tell me, how important do you think networking and connecting is within this industry? You mentioned it through Love Irish Food and helping the growers, but it's we really feel the same. That's why this was set up, was because myself, after years of buying internationally, said, right, actually there's loads of products here if I just sat into the car.
Yeah.
But how will I get the time to sit into the car and chat to someone? And sure, I'll come back then to about 600 emails, and sure, I won't bother. And that's where the trade forum came into, it's just get people connecting for a day and trading within each other, and then maybe getting a bit of connection with the retail, because the retail is a very hard door to open.
Absolutely.
It's, so I think there's a joint purpose there. So tell us a little bit about that and your belief in it.
Yeah, so I'm a huge believer that, networking, meeting others is kind of like it's critical. It's vital, really, to kind of, like, I suppose, from my perspective, and I think a lot of people who do kind of buy into going to seminars and networking events, like, you don't know everything. You might think you know everything in your own world, in your own sphere of knowledge and expertise, but you don't really. And there's so much that you can take from others and their learnings, that you can, even just take, like, if you went to a 4 hour forum and took away 5 minutes worth of information that's real and valuable to you, that's a day well spent, all day long. So you never, the day you stop learning and the day you stop willing to learn, I think, is the day that you're probably on the start of the downward slope. So that learning and upskilling and knowledge base expansion journey that I think everyone needs to go on, especially in the food industry, because, as I said earlier on, like, it's a moving feast. Like, consumers change, retailers change, shoppers change. We have to stay abreast of it. Like, so, there's things that we are talking about now in the food industry that we weren't necessarily even thinking about 5 years ago, because the world changed 5 years ago, since 5 years ago, and we need to, change ourselves to be up with it. But moreover, you meet people outside of your own sphere that you'll never normally meet. Particularly at large group events. And then the Trade Connect forum that you guys very, very successfully ran, which is a brilliant event, by the way, and highly recommend for next year. It was just, I mean, like, there was people there I stood next to queuing for a cup of coffee that I would never bump into in a normal scenario, and exchanging ideas and exchanging thoughts and kind of coming up with something that's a little bit, and as you rightly say, the follow-up is probably the critical part of all of that. So, connecting on LinkedIn afterwards, sending someone a quick note, say, or a WhatsApp, say, great to meet you, thanks, enjoyed our chat. If you're ever in our part of the world, call in, whatever it might be. Because the Irish food community, we're lucky in the sense that it is the size that it is. You look at some other countries and, like, say, for example, just take their beverage industry, their alcohol industry, say, they're huge. There's some producers that wouldn't know of each other even, and they might be playing in the same category. Whereas in Ireland, we pretty much, I can tell you within a rattle off who my competitors are locally, who they are, and I can pick them up and ring them and talk to them,
Isn't that amazing? Like,
and you see, yeah, you wouldn't be able to do that in any other environment. So
no.
I think, so you got a couple of factors there. Irish people naturally disposed to networking anyway is a big help. And also I think the ability and the willingness to learn is the other one. So for me, forum events, trade events, industry sessions, they're really, really very important to kind of not alone to upskill, but also just keep the network going.
I think that's important, because I think as well, you never know where your next business is going to come from. And you could be sitting down all day planning, but it's getting out, having the chat and connecting as person to person and getting to know people. And then, and that it becomes easy to pick up the phone and say, do you know what, I'm a bit stuck here. Could you give me a hand?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
especially in the country that we are in, like distribution can be an awful headache for an awful lot of producers, where they might be only delivering a couple of pallets here and there as they're starting off. And being able to connect that distribution, or like you're saying, sell B2B as well. There's always ways. And I think as well what you said there about the willingness to learn, to be able to sit down and because I went to there back in May, I went to the Wealth Summit. Now, not that I'd have any wealth to be doing anything at the Wealth Summit, but there was a lot of sports coaches talking at it, and coaches who really, I came away from the day feeling a lot more a belief in myself and my ability. And I think even just taking that day out and talking to other colleagues who were with me on the day as well, and sharing the challenges. And it's all right to be a bit vulnerable sometimes and go, you know what, this is not easy.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very important. What tips do you have to create networking opportunities? Because some people are not that way inclined, and it can be very hard to get, I hear an awful lot of people saying, oh, I've been in the kitchen today and I missed you, or I didn't catch you because I was doing it's because you're nearly always in the day job. How do you try and make a bit of time for the networking?
Yeah, I think in the same way you have to put a bit of time into strategic planning, or day-to-day diary scheduling, whatever it might be. You have to put in a bit of time for networking as well, because it's an important part. It's as important in terms of business planning, because again, I personally feel that it's one of those things that if you're not networking and you're not out there and you're not kind of engaging with others, well, then what are you doing? You're kind of sitting kind of head down, stuck into the keyboard or the screen, kind of focused, becoming a bit myopic, on the day job, exactly that. So I think it's important to make time in the same way you'd make time to go for a run in the morning or walk the dogs in the evening. Make time to socialize in a business perspective, because it's very important to stay tuned to others. But I think being yourself is 100% the only way to go. A lot of people kind of tend to find that going to some events, they get suited, get booted, be ready to put the business face on, and that's great. I mean, if that helps you kind of get going, brilliant. But more often than not, I think the more natural and the more open that you are in terms of just being as you would in any other setting, is probably the best advice. Listen, learn, engage, talk to somebody. If you're sitting at a table next to a stranger, how are you? Who are you? I'm so,
exactly.
Small little thing.
Small little thing, yeah.
Take everything on board. Take notes. I'm a devil for taking. I constantly have one of these in my hand all the time, or taking notes on the phone. Just constantly little things. I might be at an event, just it might mean nothing. Scribble it down, take a note of it, and for me, just looking back over that in 2 months' time, if it didn't mean anything then, it might mean something in 2 months' time. So I'm flicking through my little notebook going, oh yeah, that person there spoke about that. And that person there that I was sitting to mentioned something about X, Y, and Z. So I can go back and look at it. Because I don't know, I suppose again, might be age, Margaret, I don't know, but as time goes by, the brain doesn't retain everything. So
Oh, I know. And do you know what I find very handy? I used to be out with the notepad, but I find the phone very handy
yeah,
now. Even a sentence, if I'm listening to someone speak
yeah,
and and they just say it, there could be one sentence in there that I'll just pick up on and I'll have it in my phone. And it mightn't be the day after or the week after, but it might be a month or 2 or 6 months after that I'll say
exactly.
that. So, do you know, something just triggers with you when someone says something,
Mm,
and you remember someone that really impressed you speak. That's what I always find as well. And like, I suppose the aim of us in the Irish Food Trade Connect conversations and forum is to have caliber
mm,
speakers. We're already working on. We've already secured some really good speakers, which we'll start to release now in the next couple of months.
mm.
And there's a website in development, so there's a lot of really exciting things that we want to give back to the industry. And I suppose the main point is just to get people out networking, and that's why we want to be approachable, that anyone could pick up the phone at any time to me and ask a question if they wanted to at any point, because you're right, like, you learn and listen, and just to have someone to say, "Do you know what, would you know anyone that might know anyone that might be able to help me?" That's another one. You mightn't be able to help yourself, but surely you'd know someone that would know someone. Do you know? And
Absolutely.
that's the way it goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and case in point, I mean, at the event, the food trade forum that we were at, I mean, there was somebody I was speaking to in the room now who's not in my area at all. He's in a completely different area in the drinks industry, and we were just chatting about packaging in general. It's kind of like, I like yours, you like mine. Yeah, it was a bit of just general conversation,
Just
but
conversation.
but there was a contact dropped in the middle of it about
Right.
someone that they were working with. Sorry, they didn't work with in the end. That was kind of, they didn't really fit the need for them. And I'm kind of standing going, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Right.
So long story short, I made a connection that I probably, if I had to work away on my own and put resource, time, and energy into trying to find someone to do it, I wouldn't have made that connection. So
Jeez,
again,
that's brilliant.
it was in a very serendipitous type situation, but that's what I mean. The missed opportunities are the ones that you'll always regret, and you don't
Exactly.
know about them until
You
you're right
don't know
in the middle
about
of them.
them until you actually,
Yeah,
get yourself in the car and off out and meet people. It's like, it's a
yeah,
fantastic way to be, because you're right, when you're actually, and what you said earlier about the producers being very passionate about what they do, but focused on the product rather than the customer or whatever. Like, I mean, I suppose engaging the retail is a big thing we want to do as well, because getting a retailer's time is very challenging, and you have to prove to them that this will work. You don't want to waste the time, that this will work on your shelves, and
absolutely.
getting that connection as well.
Yeah,
To be fair, it's a challenging one, but it's one, if you just connection one to one, it definitely helps that, rather than just sending a deck across and here you
completely.
go, and next thing, 2 or 3 months time, you've heard nothing. Do you
Yeah,
know? So
yeah,
yeah, getting those
absolutely.
connections in.
And on that point, like with like a retailer, I mean, like, I suppose, again, talking about, we all are very passionate about our products and what we do, but you forget that, like, majority of retailers, or retail buyers specifically, are exceptionally time poor.
Oh,
Like, they're
very.
managing huge portfolios, huge categories. They've got 3,000 things up in the air at any one given time. So, sitting in front of them and pitching and talking to them, or having the opportunity to talk to them in an informal environment, is, you know brilliant, because
Brilliant.
sometimes in the formal buying office environment, be that physical or virtual, sometimes they're coming out of a meeting, that the meeting before, and it mightn't have been good,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you're next, and
Yeah.
you don't have their full attention because their head is still in the last meeting.
Yeah. It's a
So
difficult one.
it,
Yeah.
and it is, and I suppose we all are very conscious about how time poor we are, but I suppose when we get these meetings, we forget how busy lives everyone else has as well.
Yeah.
So
And they're human beings. The buyers are human beings. That's that
absolutely,
they're only human beings doing a job. Like, so
yeah,
that's really like, but it's supposed to get out of that off a setting and talk on a social setting
Correct.
is lovely. It
It
creates
is.
a different atmosphere altogether.
It is, because everyone is probably being a bit more, I suppose, authentic
Yes.
in terms of just, talking casually about product, brand, business, as opposed to, going in and doing the big Dragon's Den style pitch.
I know. Yeah. Oh God, the dreaded. Yeah, the dreaded. And you don't know which way it'll be taken sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Pat, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. And thanks so
Likewise.
much for your time. And continue to do the great work you do for the Irish food community. Thank you very much.
Now, Pat, before you go, what do you think is the best-selling jam? Not best-selling, you know that one. What's the best flavor jam
Well,
that the nation has voted for?
I saw the list, and I know that Irish people are very, very, very habitual when it comes to things like strawberry and raspberry. So I'm gonna go with the red fruits. I'm gonna go with strawberry.
Well, it actually is. Well, it's 40-40 for strawberry and rhubarb. Another red one. I don't know. Rhubarb. Yeah, it was leading the whole way until the end.
Well,
and blackcurrant came in third.
Goodness, I better start ordering up some rhubarb. I better get cooking.
Any rhubarb producers out there now, get a bit of
the
prosecco
audience
as well. Rhubarb.
The audience of the Irish Food Trade Connect conversations love a bit of rhubarb jam, obviously. Anyway.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. I love it. That's excellent.
There's some research for you now, Pat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.